Good afternoon, Jeffrey Scott Collins. Welcome on VH Berries.
Thank you very much for having me.
I am extremely grateful. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's been a busy week. We had the WGA strike. Just come to a deal yesterday, which has been great, and been really busy editing a feature that I shot earlier this year. So it's been good.
It's been very good because instead of going slowly into the water of the Saratoga Lake, writer and director GSC is going into the deep end of the pool to save Greg.
I tried. I don't know if Greg survived, but I tried saving him. Yeah.
Trying to save him was one of your top priority, and I would love to discuss about this recent release, which is a feature film called Greg, Poor Greg Drowning. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, that was Poor Greg Drowning was a feature that I shot a while back. It came out in August 2020, and that was a really unique process of how that film came to be. So at the time, I was working with John Hamburg, assisting John Hamburg, and we were making his feature "Why Him." And while that was happening, I saw Mark Duplass's speech at South by on YouTube about where he said, "There's no reason you shouldn't be shooting every weekend on your iPhones." And I heard that and I was like, damn it, Mark, you're right. And it had been, because it had been 3 years since I shot a short film. I had been working with directors, assisting them on their features, but it had been a while since I shot anything of my own. So Mark's speech really inspired me. So I went home that night and wrote this probably about 7-minute short film, and immediately thought of Graham Sibley, an amazing actor and really good friend of mine. And I sent it to him as soon as I finished typing, and he read it and was immediately down, and we shot it that Saturday for maybe, I think it was like $25 so everybody could have pizza. And we shot it. We shot it in about 3 hours, and then we submitted it. It got into Sun Valley Film Festival, and it was getting really good feedback. And I just loved the characters, so I just sat down and actually wrote I just continued as if the short was the first scene of the movie, and I wrote a script. I literally wrote a script in about 3 days. It was like a long weekend. It just poured out of me. I just loved this character and related to him way too much. So yeah, and then from there, once we had the script, we were like, maybe we just shoot this on the weekends. Maybe start putting out as a web series. And we shot a few weekends over the course of a few months, and then instead of putting it out, I was like, all right, how much do we need to finish this as a feature? And we came up with a very, very low number. I mean, most of the days that we were shooting, the feature, the crew was the DP. He was using his camera, his lights, and then we would have a sound person. And a lot of the days, and myself, and a lot of the days, it was that small. Some days required a bigger crew, but for the most part, it was super small, intimate, and a real passion project. And then we were able to finish it after about a year and a half of shooting on the weekends. And then another year or a year and a half of editing, and then a festival run. And then it finally came out in 2022, and Greg and I were both drowning.
Greg and yourself, Jeffrey Scott Collins, were both drowning, and if I understood correctly, right now there is no more weekends without filming short films with your phone, including a $25 plus tax included pizza budget.
Pizza, Rocco's. It was Rocco's. Shout out to Rocco's. That was a long time ago, but yeah, Rocco's Pizza, solid.
Absolutely, Jeffrey Scott Collins, and I feel in your voice that you're very attached to that feature film called Poor Greg Drowning, because you currently have a poster of that piece of art in the room you are in.
I do. I don't even know how you know that. Oh, because of the the video from the Discord. I'm like, are you seeing me from somewhere else? I do. I mean, it was a real labor of love, that film, and there's just something about, you know, piecing it together in that very independent spirit that makes it special, and everybody who worked on it, all the actors, and you know, I just really special people and time, and you know, it's you know, open up doors to allow me to make my next feature, which I shot earlier this year. So yeah, it's yeah, definitely a special place in my heart for Greg, no doubt.
Absolutely, Jeffrey Scott Collins, and this comedy film is an excellent piece of art that is telling the story of Ashley moving out and the main character Greg having to look for new roommates and going through around 88 candidates because you were using a song called 88 by Sonic versus Taste T.
Yeah, Greg, you know, struggled. Not only was Greg very in a very bad place mentally with anger and depression and rage, but he's also, you know, a little socially awkward and unaware. So the combination of that definitely scared off a few potential roommates, including Laura C., who is a friend of mine, who's an amazing actress, who was in the short film turned first scene of the feature. But yeah, Greg needed some guidance from his buddy Paul, his best friend Paul, played by Jeremy Luke, in order to know how to recruit a potential roommate.
Recruiting a new roommate is the main plot of that feature film, Jeffrey Scott Collins. And in the song that you used in the feature film that I mentioned, called 88 by Sonic versus Taste T, there is this very powerful lyrics, which is, "Who still questions the power of our democracy? Tonight is your answer." And I truly believe that Greg doesn't have the answer.
Yeah, that's I totally agree. Yeah, Greg is struggling to find that answer. Yeah, so what inspired for me, what kind of inspired Greg's mental state is a long time ago, right after college, I went through a pretty dark period that coincided with a breakup as well. And that sent me to a pretty dark spiral of depression. The first time I had ever experienced that, and definitely felt answerless for a long period, and had to figure a lot of things out. So that on my end is definitely what inspired aspects of Greg for sure. And in terms of the love addiction that he experiences, I wasn't quite aware of love addiction until I moved out to LA and actually met a few people that were in Love Addicts Anonymous, and learned about that, and definitely saw firsthand some people who have love addiction, and that I had never seen that really incorporated into a film like ours. So that was a big inspiration there.
This is very inspiring, Jeffrey Scott Collins. And I truly believe that you used, as you just mentioned, some events of your personal life to convey them into that story, and maybe that you had a nightmare at a gym or at a workout session because you wrote that line for Ashley. Speaking of human beings, please do not miss your 3 p.m. workout with my trainer, Hector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hector was inspired by a trainer at a gym in New York City named Hector. When I was working for Luke Greenfield, and we were editing his feature "Let's Be Cops" in New York City. Luke had a trainer that he got named Hector, who let me tell you, you do not want to mess with Hector. He was an intense dude, a very big guy, and he found out. Luke told him, my assistant used to be a trainer at Equinox. And that's a whole nother story, but I was a personal trainer for about 3 weeks at Equinox before I got my first director's assistant job. But and he was like, "Oh yeah, Equinox, bring him in." And so Luke brought me in, and Hector whipped my ass. There was one time specifically where we were doing a circuit, and part of the circuit we had to do kettlebell swings, and Hector had set out like the biggest kettlebell, I don't even know how much it weighs, out along with a smaller one that Luke was using. And in the circuit, I tried to grab the smaller one, to use, and Hector storms over. He's like, "That ain't for you. That ain't for you." And so I had to use the bigger one. And I don't think I've ever been the same. In fact, literally, this obviously did not actually cause it, but a few weeks later, my appendix burst. And so, so Luke and I always we jokingly attribute that to Hector's intensity.
Absolutely, Jeffrey Scott Collins. If I understood correctly, that trainer named Hector was very intense, especially against you. And this feature film, Poor Greg Drowning, is starting with the caption, "The heart was made to be broken," written by poet and playwright Oscar Wilde, and another lyricist and novelist that you are enjoying a lot is Paulo Coelho, and one of his book. Can you tell us a little bit more about this revelation?
Yes. So when I was working, okay, so basically, I grew up in upstate New York, and growing up, I was since the age of 3 or 4. My mom had this massive VHS camcorder, and I was constantly just running around making these short films. Begging anybody in my family, friends, anybody to be in these little short films of mine, and I just grew up loving film and continued making shorts all through high school. But then, I thought that I never saw film, directing, writing as an actual, realistic career. My dad was in finance, so I had always figured that's kind of the path that I would eventually go in. And so I majored in accounting at Boston College. I worked my first job I was an auditor at PricewaterhouseCoopers in New York City. And I was in the entertainment and media group, so we were auditing like big media clients like Viacom, Time Warner, and by the end of the day, it was still auditing, still accounting, finance work, and my creative soul was just rapidly dying. And I think that contributed to the period I was going through where I felt like I was drowning, if you will. So I eventually moved over to finance at Major League Baseball Network, which was great because I always loved sports as much as film. And it was actually, at a company that was a startup, but it was a network, so it had a production side. And then I was doing finance as well, but I would edit, I would stay after and edit some of the content there at the network. And then I moved over to finance at HBO. So I was slowly and cautiously moving my way over to entertainment without trying to avoid giving the old man a heart attack. And then eventually I made it. I was in finance at HBO, and then I made a 30-minute short film that I showed some execs on the creative services side at HBO, and they saw it, and then they actually moved me over to the creative side. So I was kind of like a producer working on trailers and promos at HBO. And then while I was in that group, I made another 30-minute short film that we did at the theater at HBO, and some execs at Ridley Scott's company, Scott Free, as well as some agents at Gersh got a hold of the short, watched it, and reached out. And I didn't know anybody in Hollywood, in LA at all, but was obviously really excited about meeting with them. But then my good friend Jackie Burgos at HBO gave me the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and then I also read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And as soon as I read those, I was like, all right, screw it, I am quitting and moving to LA. And yeah, that was it. It was literally like the final straw that I needed to, give me the courage to drop everything and move out to LA. I didn't know anybody out here. Didn't have a job. I just came out, I think, pretty much on my 27th birthday, and then I did a summer film program at UCLA, which was really great because it immersed me in a film school. When I was at HBO in New York, I took a couple of film classes at NYU, but had never, I grew up thinking that, graduate school, especially going through business, was what you had to do to really, excel in your career. So immediately I was thinking, do I need to go to film school? And it showed me, that summer program showed me that I didn't need to do like a full-on 3-year graduate director program, since I had grown up making my own shorts, writing, directing, editing. And then when I was there at UCLA, this badass producer, Julie Lynn, came in and spoke, and she was just extremely impressive. So after she spoke, I introduced myself and sent her my short film, and then about 9 months later, she had a feature called 5 to 7 that was shooting in New York City, and she asked if I wanted to interview with Vic Levin, the writer director of the feature, and I did, and so this is where I feel like the universe was testing how much I really wanted this, because so in between those 9 months, I was just networking, learning. I was writing my scripts, learning how to develop them, and that's where, in that time, I was doing freelance stuff, but then I became a personal trainer at Equinox for about 3 weeks, and then I got the offer for 5 to 7. But then I also got an offer to be the director of finance at a big film company in New York City, and so I was offered both on the same day. So I was being offered, do I want to get paid practically nothing as an intern and fly myself to New York, put myself up for 3 months, or do I want to get paid really good money, move back to New York and work at a film company, but then I would still be in finance once again, even though it was entertainment. So so I chose the route with no money, and then my dad had a heart attack. I'm just kidding. He did not have a heart attack. I chose the no money route, and that's when, and I absolutely loved it, and had an amazing experience, and that started me working with big comedy directors, assisting comedy directors.
Choosing the no money route, including
Highly recommend.
Again the 25 tax included pizza budget, and in definitive, when you were an auditor at PricewaterhouseCoopers International Limited, providing audit, tax and business advisory services, you were doing the wrong thing, but at the right place.
The wrong thing at the right, meaning so what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
It is absolutely. I'm going to explain that, Jeffrey Scott Collins.
Thank you.
I mean that there are two possibilities. You can be doing the right thing, so filmmaking, but at the wrong place, somewhere in the middle of the United States, or you could be doing the wrong thing, which is being an auditor, but at the perfect place, which is New York City.
Yes, 100%. And, as much as I did not, as much as I felt like almost like an alien, in business clothes, working in finance and stuff. I will say it has been very beneficial and very helpful in film because ironically, making these features, I've learned a lot more about business than I ever did working in finance and accounting because, when you make a feature film, you have to create an LLC, you have to raise money, you have to hire people, you have to make a product, you have to sell it. So you literally see, you have contracts, lawyers. It really runs the gamut of it's like creating your own small business. So while the creative soul was dying, it was definitely it's definitely been very beneficial in making independent features.
It's been Jeffrey Scott Collins very beneficial to do those pieces of art, including Let It Bleed. And I find it very beautiful, the fact that by doing this short film, you were one step closer. And those 3 words are also a song, One Step Closer, by linking Park, a song that is concluding the ending credit of Let It Bleed.
Wow, that is impressive research. I didn't is Let It Bleed even, is it online?
The song One Step Closer is the one you used for the ending credit.
Yeah, I didn't even so that's correct. And clearly we don't have rights. I don't think that I don't have the short online anywhere. I think I have the credit sequence that we use, One Step Closer, but not the short. But yes, the One Step Closer. We when I was in high school, we made a short film called In the End, and used the song In the End by Linkin Park. And I just, that inspired me to use One Step Closer for Let It Bleed. And yes, Let It Bleed was the short I made when I was in finance at HBO. And that's the short that HBO saw and moved me to the creative side. And that is kind of like Greg was a short that we just shot on the weekends whenever we could. And literally, I was the only crew, essentially. I had the little video camera. I was the DP, the writer, director, producer, editor. And so it was a $0 budget. Just the actors getting paid. But that took a long time too. That was a 30-minute short that we shot on the weekends and got into some festivals. That was the short that allowed me to move over to the creative side at HBO.
As a matter of fact, Jeffrey Scott Collins, this piece of art was way above the competition. It was above the line.
That I like that. I like that a lot. Yes, above the line. 100%. That's the name of my feature that we shot earlier this year that I'm in post on right now. And Above the Line was a very cathartic film. And I apologize. I've lived here for about 3 years, and the smoke detector has never, or the carbon monoxide detector has never made a sound, and now it's beeping now that I'm doing a podcast. So I apologize for that. But Yeah, Above the Line was a very, very cathartic film. So it's a dark heist comedy, very inspired by Quentin Tarantino, Coen Brothers, Shane Black, Steven Soderbergh's Out of Sight, those crime, dark comedy noirs of the 90s. And it's I don't want to say too much, but it's basically about a group of Hollywood hopeful types that are recruited for a heist to steal 5 Oscars from a famous producer mogul's house. And what inspired the film was when I came out to LA, just some of the kind of con artistry of some people that, either con artistry to appear like they've made it or con artistry to make it. Yeah, I was a little blown away by the lengths that people will go to make it out here. So that was definitely a big inspiration behind the idea of the movie and exploring my fascination with those people and what they will do in order to make it.
Absolutely, Jeffrey Scott Collins. And as you just mentioned, you are currently in the middle of post-production that includes doing some screening to test the audience reaction, but also hiring composer, because you are now entering a new dimension. You cannot just steal a Linkin Park music without being noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we can't steal music anymore. Now that we're making a professional motion picture. So no more stealing of music. But yeah, we are currently doing some small test screenings of the film because we're nearing picture lock. We just submitted to Sundance. We're going to submit to South by, and currently meeting with different composers as well. Yeah. No more stealing music.
No more stealing music ever again, Jeffrey Scott Collins, and you are going to submit this piece of art to Sundance, also to South by Southwest, and this is a very inspiring story because the script was achieved and finished, completed since a long time, 7 years ago, in March 2016.
Yes, correct. My co-writer and I on this feature, John O'Matt, we finished it, in March 2016. And, they say, I think the average length to get a movie made is about 7 years, and we literally nailed that to the month. We were shooting 7 years to the month after we finished the script, and a pandemic didn't help. We were supposed to shoot it earlier, and then COVID happened. And we were just really patient with how the film came together, making sure that the right people were in place, and didn't want to rush it clearly. So I feel like we probably could have gotten it made earlier, but we would have had to sacrifice some things that fortunately we didn't have to. And it all just aligned when it was supposed to, and I could not be happier with how the film turned out, and really, really excited to premiere hopefully at one of these big festivals coming up.
It is now all aligned. Jeffrey Scott Collins, and I can see two different options explaining those 7 years. One, you should have brought Hector into the set, into every single room, and I would believe that it could speed up the process. And number two, maybe that you didn't provided enough $25 tax included pizza to the crew.
No, I think you're spot on. I think if I had Hector as a threatening wingman of sorts, that we definitely could have gotten this puppy off the ground earlier. Yeah, we did. Although we did have we had a couple of pizza nights on the set of Above the Line. So I don't know if they were Rocco's, but we the $25 pizza lives on for sure.
The $25 tax included pizza lived on. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Scott Collins.
Thank you so much. Thank you really much. So much for having me. I think it's amazing, your podcast and what you're doing here. And my good friend, Jordan Claire Robbins, who is also in Above the Line and an executive producer on the film. I know that she was on your podcast back in December, I believe it was. So she highly recommended it. And yeah, this has been a blast. Thank you so much, Victor.